This is it, the all-new Mazda BT-50, a ute that takes a very different approach to its predecessor and pretty much every Mazda ute that's come before it. That's because this one is not based on a Ford. In fact, it's based on the all-new Isuzu D-Max, which we've already been very impressed by. So, does the new BT-50 stack up as well as the D-Max, and how does it stack up in the class? We're going to find that out in this review, and in this part of the review we're going to be covering off things like fuel consumption, engine specs, on-road driving, and of course, we're going to take it off-road.
Yep, I'll take care of that and I'll give you an idea of what I reckon later on. But first though, Matt's going to give you some details on stuff that I reckon you'll be very interested in.
So between myself and Crafty, we'll give you everything you need to know about this new generation BT-50 in this review. But if there's something specific that you want to find out about, you can find the time codes on your screen now. And if you're watching on YouTube, you'll find the chapter markers in the timeline below. And if you are watching on YouTube, don't forget, hit like, hit subscribe, share this video with your friends and hit the bell icon to stay up to date with all of our latest videos. Now, let's take a closer look at the new generation BT-50. First up, let's go through the model range. At the time of launch, the BT-50 is only available in dual cab guise. There will be lower grade models in single and extra cab body styles, but we don't know the details just yet, so stay tuned. At the entry point of the dual cab BT-50 range is the XT grade, which is available in cab chassis or pickup body styles. XT models make up the most variants in the BT-50 range, offering tradies a raft of choices. In dual cab body style, the XT runs from $44,090 through to $53,260, depending on if you choose 4x4, 4x2, auto, manual, or cab or pickup. XT is a bit more work focused than the models above it and still comes with 17-inch alloy wheels, LED headlights, a 7-inch screen with Android Auto and wireless Apple CarPlay, carpet flooring and cloth seats. Next up the line is the XTR, which only comes in pickup body style but is available in 4x2 or 4x4. You can differentiate it by its 18-inch alloy wheels, LED daytime running lights and fog lights, and inside there's a 9-inch screen with sat-nav, dual zone climate control, leather wheel and shifter, and an auto-dimming rear view mirror. The D-Max it's based on doesn't get that. At the top of the line is the 4x4 only GT, which we've got here. It's not as extravagant as the X-Terrain range-topping D-Max, but it's a subtle flagship, priced at $56,990 for the manual or $59,990 for the auto. For the money, you get nice things like an 8-speaker stereo, heated mirrors, electric driver's seat adjust, leather trim in brown with front seat heating. That's another thing the D-Max doesn't have. Right, let's take a look inside the BT-50 GT. The interior of the all-new Mazda BT-50 is a lot better than the old one, and it's actually better than quite a few of its rivals in some ways. In fact, the design is really interesting. Mazda had basically free rein, to a degree, to come up with something that feels more Mazda-like inside, and they've done that. There's nice elements to this cabin, including the redesigned air vents, which are different to the D-Max, and this nice metallic look trim that runs across the dashboard and into the doors, and it's repeated on the rear doors as well. It just looks quite interesting and much more SUV-like than work truck oriented. And there are some other elements to the cabin which I'll call out now, like there's a soft material across the top of the dashboard. There's soft materials on the doors as well. And it all adds to a bit of a feeling of plushness that's backed up by these brown leather seats. I love brown, don't get me wrong. I am a fan, I think they're really nice. Plus in the BT-50, in the top spec, you get seat heaters for the front seats. And you also get an auto-dimming rear view mirror, and you can't get either of those in a top spec D-Max. But you do get some common things with the D-Max, like this 9-inch media screen, which is available in the XTR and the GT. The 7-inch screen is fitted to the base model XT, but it's quite a decent screen. It's nice and high res. It's got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The CarPlay you can use via USB or wirelessly. You have to use USB for Android Auto, and we've actually had some trouble getting it to work on this particular vehicle. Now back to the other elements of the design. Obviously you've got a nice dashboard design, but there's some shortcomings. Compared to the D-Max, there's no pop-out cup holders on the side, and that means that you can't actually fit a coffee up here, and the cup holders down here are too deep. So you sort of got to be careful if you've got a hot coffee like this one. Now that's just something you might want to consider. If you don't drink coffee on the road, who are you? I need to speak to you. But this is a really nice feeling cabin. There's other things that are common with the D-Max. Obviously you've got the 4.2-inch digital screen in front of the driver. The dials are the same. The steering wheel's the same as well. It's just got a Mazda center part to it, although it does look convincingly Mazda-ish, which is quite good. Another thing that I really like is that there's soft padding down here on the edge near your knees, which is good if you're going off-road. One thing I don't like is the dark headliner. I've never been a fan of them. I just feel like it makes it feel a little bit cave-like, but you might like that. Now, should we check out the back seat? Rear seat space in the BT-50 is just like the D-Max, actually really quite good. I'm 6 foot tall, 182 centimeters, and I have enough space back here quite comfortably to sit for a long time because there's enough knee room. I've got sort of tight toe room, but it's good enough, and headroom is ample too. You could fit 3 of me across here if you really needed to put adults across the back seat, but if you've got kids, there are only outboard ISOFIX points and only top tethers for those 2 seats as well. So you can't fit 3 child seats back here. So if you're thinking that you need a ute that can do 3 child seats, then you might need to look elsewhere. But thankfully there are nice things to keep anyone occupied back here. You've got a USB port to keep your devices charged. There's also air vents down here, directional air vents, so you can keep cool on hot days. And there are also map pockets for storage. There's a little hook here so you can put a shopping bag or takeaway bag on there, and there's bottle holders in the doors. Plus you get a flip down armrest with decent sized cup holders. Now let's look over the safety specs of the BT-50 because it's taken a big leap compared to its predecessor. In fact, there are safety tech items in this ute that have only been seen in its twin, the D-Max, to this point. Up front, for example, there's a front center airbag, as well as AEB with pedestrian and cyclist detection, lane keeping systems, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert and adaptive cruise control, and that's on automatic models. You get regular cruise control on the manuals. Pickups are the only ones eligible for rear parking sensors, but all models come with a reversing camera. Yep, the new generation BT-50 is at the head of the field when it comes to safety tech. When you're buying a dual cab ute, there really isn't a whole lot of difference between the tub space you'll find in the big name players. Only the Volkswagen Amarok will fit a pallet if you want a pickup, but none of the others can. Here's a look at the dimensions of the new BT-50 dual cab pickup tub. If you want more detail, head to our full review at the CarsGuide site. The link is in the description below. Under the bonnet of the new generation BT-50, no matter which model you choose, you're getting the same engine. It's a 3-litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel, and it's sourced from Isuzu. And that's a different approach to what we've seen from BT-50 in the past. The last generation version had a couple of engine options, where this one has only one. Interestingly, compared with the existing 5-cylinder BT-50, the engine outputs have dropped. They're identical to the D-Max at 140 kilowatts and 450 Newton meters. There's a choice of 6-speed manual or 6-speed automatic in all grades, and the 4-wheel drive models have selectable 4x4 with rear-wheel drive, high-range 4-wheel drive and low-range 4x4 for when things get a bit more serious. All 4-wheel drive BT-50s get a rear locking diff too, and no matter which you choose, there's a maximum brake towing capacity of 3.5 tonnes. Now you might want to skip ahead to Crafty doing his off-road thing, or you might want to stick with me, and next up we're going to look at fuel consumption. The official combined cycle fuel consumption figure for the new BT-50 dual cab range is between 7.7 litres per 100 and 8 litres per 100 kilometres. Now that's pretty good, and it's a big improvement over the predecessor. But on our test, we've seen this figure, as you'll see on your screen, and that's in the GT, the top spec automatic 4x4. Also, not too bad of a result. Now, let's go for a drive, shall we? Unsurprisingly, the Mazda BT-50 drives very similarly to the new D-Max. That's because Mazda hasn't changed anything about the drive experience. The steering's the same, the engine and transmission are the same, and the suspension is the same. Mazda quite bluntly told us at the press event that the new BT-50 is essentially a styling exercise. There's a redesigned interior, redesigned front-end styling to differentiate it from the D-Max, but no other money was spent to try and make it different to drive. But that's no bad thing, because the new D-Max is impressive, and therefore so is the BT-50. If you've driven a previous BT-50, the first thing that will strike you as different in here is the steering. It's much lighter, much more user-friendly, and it just makes driving at lower speeds particularly a lot easier and a lot less hard work than it was before. Because the old Ford Ranger hydraulic steering based system in the previous one was heavy, and now it's not. It's much more user-friendly, but it is still quite a few turns lock to lock, so you've got to keep that in mind in tight situations. So the steering is better, and so is the suspension. The ride is considerably more comfortable than the previous BT-50. It just does have a rough edge to it. It's a ute after all. You still pick up some of the lumps and bumps in the road surface below you, but the overall setting of the suspension is quite soft and quite comfort focused, and I like that. As I mentioned earlier, the 3-litre engine is direct from Isuzu, and that's no bad thing either. It's got pretty decent pulling power, there's no doubt about that, although it doesn't have quite the same level of torque as some of its rivals, which have smaller capacity engines. So you could say, and you could surmise, that this is a low-strain diesel engine, and it feels it too. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't offer urgent progress when you need it. It's pretty rapid when you put your foot down and give it the boot. A lot of that comes down to also this 6-speed automatic transmission, which does a really good job of keeping you in the torque band. That can mean that it'll be a little bit busy at higher speeds to keep you where it needs the revs to be, but you get used to it. And it's nowhere near as noisy as the old BT-50 inside, so it's less noticeable as well. You can't hide the ute roots of any of these dual cab pickups, but the fact that the payload for every single BT-50 is more than 1,000 kilos means that it's a genuine option for people who need something that's both work focused and leisure proof as well. In terms of living with it day to day, you get a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty, and there's a 7-year capped price service plan as well. And the intervals are 12 months, 15,000 Ks, not every 10,000 Ks like other Mazda models, which is good. There's also an assured future value program, which you can sign up for when you purchase the vehicle, and that means that they can guarantee a trade-in value for you when the end of that term comes. So that's pretty impressive if you're looking for a ute to hang on to for 3 years, 5 years, or maybe even 7. So that covers off the on-road driving part of this test. Let's throw it to Crafty to see how it goes off-road.
Now there's plenty to cover, but first we're going to take a look at some of those important angles you're no doubt curious about. The figures you see here apply to both the XTR and the GT 4x4 dual cabs. The XT models aren't quite as accommodating when it comes to off-road specs. You'll see why if you read our full written review. The link is in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube. This is a real greasy track. It's a clay surface and it tends to become really slippery at even the slightest hint of rain, and there's been more than a hint overnight. There's been a lot of rain. It's really washed this out. It's exposed tree roots, it's exposed rocks, and it's made the holes that were pretty serious before even more severe, and it's a real challenge for a standard vehicle. All the elements are there. That off-road traction control system has been recalibrated because it is the D-Maxes after all. The BT-50 has a little bit less power and torque than in its previous generation, but that doesn't really matter. You don't need to go gung-ho with your right boot. Well, not most of the time anyway, every now and again. But the power and torque in this is working pretty well. you've really got enough there on tap. There's plenty of wheel travel. It's not a modified vehicle after all, but if you can get the tyre to the dirt, you can use that torque and you can keep going. For a stock standard vehicle, the new BT-50 is pretty impressive. Engine braking is solid in the new BT-50, but if you want a bit more bite than that, you can always engage hill descent control, and it's shown itself to be pretty good, and that's no big surprise because it's the same system essentially that's in the D-Max. It holds your speed to about 2 or 3 k's an hour, except when you tip into more severe slippery holes going down, but otherwise, yeah, it really is a reliable system. Overall, the new BT-50 has shown itself to be a pretty impressive all-round off-road package, and with that D-Max platform on which it's built, that's no surprise because, as I've mentioned, the D-Max has impressed us off-road as well. You really could do a lot worse than use a new BT-50 as your off-road tourer of choice. So there you have it, the new Mazda BT-50 is pretty handy off-road, but what about our overall verdict? Well, here's Matt to fill you in.
Overall, the new generation Mazda BT-50 lives up to the benchmark set by the D-Max that it's based upon, and even offers something a little bit different to buyers who are wanting a bit more of a plush truck vibe to their new ute. In the GT spec that we've got here, you know, it's got quite a few things going for it, and it doesn't have that look at me factor that you maybe do want if you're looking at a Ford Ranger Wildtrak or the D-Max X-Terrain. Remember to read the full review at the CarsGuide site and let us know what you think in the comments section below once you've done that. And if you are watching on YouTube, don't forget also to hit subscribe, hit like, share this video with your friends, hit the bell icon so you can keep up to date with all of the latest video content that we've got coming your way. And you're probably wondering what the score is for the new BT-50. Well, here it is.